So let's get to this eBay unboxing. I went into a bit of a bid war over this. And all right, we're going to open it up fast motion. I have my flash on. It's like living in the 1800s in my house. I kid you not. When you buy a house that was built in the 40s or 50s, I noticed most of these houses did not have ceiling lights. We put ceiling lights in recently, but, yeah, they use LED light bulbs now. LED light bulbs are terrible. So I got to use a freaking flash. All right, so I got into a bid war. I had this in my watch list. And why did it get into a bid war? These are so common. Wait, I'm just going to move my camera. These are very common crucifixes. Now I have gloves on. I'm ready to restore it. These were made between the mid-Victorian era all the way through about, I'm going to say, about the 50s. Right around the time, like when, towards the 60s, when they did Vatican II, they changed the way the crucifixes look. But the reason why this went into a bid war, number one, is because it has ebony, and it's probably an older one. I don't know. Can we see with this dumb flash? This is probably an older one. Now, I always check the back. If it says made in, or it has like a country of origin on it, it was generally made after... Well, if it said a country of origin, like say Germany, which most of these were made in Germany or France or Italy, that would denote that it was after 1890. If it says made in, it's from the teens to the 20s and on, up until today. Something with McKinley. The President McKinley in the U.S. made the McKinley tariff act, where things that came from abroad everything had to be basically marked with a country of origin. So we know after 1890, things had origin stamped onto it. That's not to say that things from the Victorian era did not have a country of origin stamped on it. That could happen as well. Generally, though, less likely. But yeah, so I'm going to guess that this was made somewhere possibly before 1890. And I'm going to show you a more contemporary one next to this one. Now, they still do make these, but they're not as actually popular as a regular crucifix. Okay, so here we go. This one on the left is a more contemporary version of the one on the right, missing the memento mori, which is the skull and crossbone design. People that collect these. Now, you can find these type of older ones with the memento mori skull and crossbones on the bottom, or Golgotha symbol, or without it. I don't know why. I think there was different kinds of orders of nuns or priests that chose the Golgotha symbol and ones that didn't. Now, the one on the left is way more contemporary. Let's turn it over. We'll have a country of origin. Don't know if you can see that, made in Germany. All right, so a lot of these were made in Germany, with the exception that some were made in France and some were made in Italy. And so this one is old, and it is dirty. We can see that it has a lot of schmutz on it. And let's get in there tight. And if you get a little bit of simichrone, this will shine up like a new penny. Now, this was most likely a priest or a nun's profession crucifix. Profession crucifixes came in many sizes. Some were small enough to be put on rosaries, and some were large enough to be placed on a wall or placed in a coffin. The larger ones tend to be wool crucifixes or coffin crucifixes, although a lot of priests and nuns would wear these in like 5 to 9-inch sizes, hanging from a belt around their waist or even around their neck by a rope. Quite interesting. On a lot of these, we'll have the Sacred Heart of Jesus right there in the center where the ebony is. And some of them will do you the favor and help you date them. Like I've seen one recently that was similar to this with the Golgotha skull and crossbones it said Anno 1950. It says Sancta Anno 1950, the holy year 1950, but this one does not have a date. And very hard to pin down an exact decade that a crucifix like this was made. Very, very hard, because they did not vary. From decades to decade, they actually stayed the same, and the design was identical from, say, an 1880s one all the way up to a 1950s one. Very hard to tell, but you can generally tell by the wear or the patina on it. Now, you might say, why are you going to clean it with simichrone? I don't know. I have this OCD issue where I like my crucifixes nice and shiny. I don't like blackened tarnish or schmutz on them. I might leave this. I might actually leave this with the patina and just slightly clean it up with a little bit of Simichrome polish and just take away any verdigris that I see on it, because verdigris is the enemy of all metals and will eat away at your metal. But let's look at some other examples of these. What is something like this worth? They vary. Not rare at all. You'll find them on eBay all day long. You'll find a multitude of sellers selling these. I'm going to show you an earlier version of one of these. Let me go ahead and get it. So now this one, again, would have probably been a priest or a nun's profession crucifix. This is the earliest out of these three. You will usually find them in brass as opposed to nickel plated or silver plated. And how you can tell the age, and I'm going to show you. You're going to look on the edges. And if you see these little lines, you'll see these teeny tiny little lines on the edges of the brass. You'll know this was hand filed and actually made by hand as opposed to machine. So that can help you date. Now, we had the Industrial Revolution in the Victorian era, but a lot of these, you can see the lines. I don't know if you can see that. You see the lines going across the top of the brass. You can tell this was hand filed. Now, crucifixes like these with the brass color were generally made from the late 1700s and through about the 1850s, 1860s. Very hard to pin down an exact decade. So this one could be from the 1820s, the 1790s, the 1850s, 1860s, and I would probably not know because they just did not vary in design. They just stayed the same for so many decades. Really quite cool. This one was cleaned. It came like covered in verdigris and rust and various like tarnishing. I did clean this with Simichrome. It was filthy and black. The brass was blackened around it. It shines up like a new penny. I might just do that with this one. All right, so let's go ahead. What do these sell for? It varies. You can find one of these on eBay for 20 bucks. Any one of these. You can find one on eBay for 150 bucks, 300 bucks, 350 bucks. Now, a lot of sellers erroneously call these World War II crucifixes or World War II chaplain crucifixes. They do that, and I'll tell you why. They do it because it makes the story more interesting, or they'll call it a World War I crucifix, and they do it just to make it so that it's more desirable. It does not mean that it was used in World War I, especially like this one is probably mid-century, and it could have been made during World War I, but it doesn't mean that it came from World War I. And a lot of sellers, you got to be careful if you're buying these crucifixes. They will say World War I or World War II, chaplain's German crucifix. And it's just a gimmick. It's a gimmick. It's like almost like when eBay a YouTube creator does a clickbait title on their listing, on their video. They're like, hey, I hope Joe Rogan rots in hell, or I hope Biden has a stroke, or Biden's wearing poopy pants diapers, and then people click on it and it has nothing to do about Biden wearing poopy pants diapers. You know what I'm saying? Like that type of deal. Well, eBayers do it as well. Well, what do these type of things sell for? I've seen these sell for as little as 10 bucks. All the way up to 350 bucks for, say, this one. This one on eBay, you can probably snag one for 20 bucks. And then somebody else will be more versed. Oh, yeah, this is an old one. This is a Victorian one. Let's put the high price on it. So it's subjective. Price and value is subjective on these pieces. It's what someone's willing to pay for it and what the seller actually hyperboles it up as. Oh, this was taken on the battlefield during World War II, and a GI chaplain had it around his neck, and he ran through the river of, I don't know, he ran in the Argonne forest, is it Aragon, or whatever you want to call it, forest, during the Battle of the Bulge. He landed on D-Day on the sandy beach of Normandy and dodged bullets as they flew over his head and was wearing this crucifix, and it saved his life. Yeah, that might get quite a few $100. Show you such an example that I just told you. Large World War II antique Germany chaplain, pictorial crucifix, ebony wood with skull and crossbones. Sorry, this item is sold out. Now watch this. I'm going to show you, okay? $349.26 because of this really cool story. It dates approximately 1930s and 40s, and it was worn by chaplains in the German military, shown examples in the last two pictures. Let's check it out. And the last two pictures, I got to find the last two pictures. Okay, so it's true. Yes, they did wear them. Here's a German soldier wearing one of these, but it doesn't mean a German soldier wore it. Here's another example that they're showing, but it could mean totally nothing. It could have been just some schmuck wearing it, that they happened to buy it around that time frame, but it's very hard to pinpoint. Now, this one does have the Germany on it. I told you if it's after the teens and the 20s, it would have the country of origin on it. Mine being earlier, 1890s and before, previous to 1890. But do you see the prices that we're talking here just by making up some huge story? Look, if you didn't put that on there, right, that World War II bunk, $39.49. So as you can see, these prices are all over the place. Let's try to see if we see more. Here's another one. This one is a reliquary. It has relics in it. So of course the price is going to be higher. Let's check out. Here we go. $105 for a nickel nun or priest's profession crucifix. Oh, here we go. Another one. Oh, wait. We got a World War II one, boys and girls. Here we go. $1,120. It says, antique Germany, rare pectoria Golgotha crucifix. So I'm telling you right now, there's no way of proving that this is, it does say Germany, yeah, because it says Germany does not mean it was used in battles on World War II, worn by German soldiers. By the way, Nazis were not allowed to be Catholics. It was they would be excommunicated by the Catholic Church. It was not allowed. So who would wear this? Probably the Wehrmacht, German, like army soldiers. But then again, you cannot prove this is a battlefield crucifix. $1,120. Another example of a Memento Mori crucifix, $73. And there's no hyperbole. No story about it being on the battlefields of World War II. This says it's antique. Let's see, does it have the mark on the back of the country of origin? I'm looking for it. Oh, here we go. Here's the whole back. It does not. So this one is actually antique. But again, the price is all over the place, $73.09. So what have you learned today, boys and girls? I could have taken this crucifix. Now, I don't sell on the internet anymore. As a matter of fact, I get people all the time because I made over 2,000 videos showing my antiques and my collection. Somebody wanted to buy an antique sword off of me last night, and I said I no longer have an Etsy shop. I don't sell on eBay, Etsy, or Ruby Lane anymore. And I gave, like a schmuck, I gave them a link to somebody else selling the same exact sword as me, but I found it for $1,300. I did not know the sword was worth $1,300, and I was like, this lady ain't gonna pay that. She's like, I wanted to buy this for my father, who's an Oddfellow, and that's an Oddfellow sword. And I said, nah, I can't sell it. Sorry, here's a link to some guy selling it for $1,300. Turns out she contacted me and said, I just talked to the guy and I'm gonna buy it from him. I thought the sword was only worth $200. And I was like, I'm not going through the trouble of packing up this gigantic sword just for $200. Yes, I'm not lazy, that I don't want to make $200 packing up a sword and shipping it out. And I lost $1,300. So what is that telling you? Now, I see those same swords on eBay. I didn't tell her this. Selling for $300 to $400 to $500. She could have had the same sword. What's that to tell you, boys and girls? That price is very subjective. And I lost $1,300 by being a lazy bastard. Yes, I could have told her $1,300. I just thought she was broke. I assume that people that watch my YouTube videos are broke. I'm broke too. Trust me, I'm not making fun of broke ass people. But I assumed that she wasn't gonna even pay 100 doll hairs for that sword. And what happens, boys and girls, when you assume? A teacher once taught me, it makes an ass out of you and me. And so now, writing, this was worn by a World War II chaplain on the battlefield of Dresden. And yeah, some schmuck will come along and pay the big bucks for it. Thanks for watching. See you guys all soon. We're going to be doing more unboxings, and my opinion really doesn't matter. Maybe we'll find out what values things are, do some research. But again, prices for collectibles and antiques are subjective as hell. What one person is willing to pay, 900 people are not willing to pay. And people use clickbait titles to get the big bucks and give things a fake story. It's true. It's really true. P.T. Barnum once said, "A sucker is born every day." It is true. A sucker is born every single day, boys and girls.